that takes us right into our last part of Young and Dominant Sports Talk right here on Facebook Live. Coming to you live from Broad and Girard alongside Tyler Young. I am Dominic Barone. We are getting into our division-by-division outlook up until opening day, April 1st. So we already last week, this is the third team that we are going through. Last week, the last 2 weeks, we did the NL and AL East. And now the next 2 weeks, we're going to be doing the NL and AL Central.
Absolutely.
We're going to start with the NL Central.
So I wrote this out, and I was looking at it, and the Central isn't all that crazy, isn't all that interesting. Top to bottom, I've got the Cubs winning the division by a long shot, the Cardinals in second and possibly going for a wild card spot. Then we have the Pirates, the Brewers, and the Reds. They will be rounding out the bottom. I think they're going to be the bottom feeders.
Yes.
And we had talked pre-show. We want to kind of start the opposite direction tonight. We want to talk about the three bottom feeders, and we got 20 minutes here. We'll talk about these guys quick. Nothing real interesting going on with any of these teams. Kind of
with literally none of them.
I mean, the Reds and the Brewers kind of are in clear rebuilds. The Pirates are just kind of sitting on their asses, like, what the hell are we doing?
What do we do?
Yeah,
like that.
it's kind of like how the Phillies did like 3 years ago.
They didn't really know what to do.
They didn't want to let go of these players and kind of missed windows to bring back tons of talent. They eventually did it. It just took a little bit longer. So in third place, I got the Pirates. Last year, they were 78 and 83. Only additions that they had were Phil Gosselin. They traded from Arizona. They signed pitcher Daniel Hudson, and they also re-signed Ivan Nova, who will probably be their second starter.
I like Nova a lot.
Right.
I just think it's not going to be enough to propel that starting lineup past what we have in Chicago and St. Louis.
Yeah. Well, Garrett Cole is a big name, and
great right-hander.
Jim Centalion. He was a top prospect for them a couple years ago. Came up right around the same time as Syndergaard. He's a big name for them too, but Nova was their biggest signing of this year. And then subtractions, they went through a few subtractions too. They lost infielder Sean Rodriguez, who we talked about in the past.
Yeah, that's a huge loss.
Matt Joyce, Neftali Feliz, relief pitcher, and pitcher Jeff Locke, who went to the Marlins. My outlook on them is they're a team in free fall. They're not quite sure whether they want to compete or they want to sell and rebuild. They have a few big names like Talion, like Cole, and McCutchen, obviously, who's been their stud, their staple for years. I see this team as a 500 team. I'm not sure how much you want to expand on them.
Well, I just think that they shifted Andrew McCutchen to right field. Past this season, I don't know if he's even going to be there. They have Starling Marte still. And at third base, they still have Harrison.
No. Harrison's playing second.
Okay, second base.
Jung-Ho Kong, or Gong, I guess you pronounce
Oh, they moved him from short to third?
He's playing third, and he's going through his own issues. I think he just got his third DUI this past offseason. And
our Korean friend.
Yeah.
Whew.
So he got his third DUI in Korea, and I think he was supposed to be sentenced to 6 months. He got the sentence. He got like a plea bargain.
Got a good lawyer
so that he can play baseball. They do have some big names. I mean, Polanco, Marte, and McCutchen. That is probably one of the better outfields in the league.
Yeah, but what does it translate to?
They don't exactly. They just don't really have the pitching there.
I think it really comes down to the pitching. Yeah, I mean, you look at their infield; it's a great infield. But no more Pedro Alvarez. He's not a name that's there anymore. So who's even at first base?
They have a kid named Bell, who I do not know at all. Honestly.
Okay, that tells you right there.
Yeah, Josh Bell, 24 years old.
When you don't have a strong first baseman and a strong 1 through 3, there's really you have no shot against the Cubs. Or the Cardinals.
Right. Well, the Cubs are on top of this division by a long shot. After the Pirates.
I have nothing else to expand upon. I was just going to say on the Pirates, Brewers, or Reds. Reds have literally no one, and the Brewers don't have anyone either. So I hate to say I have nothing to say.
The only thing I can say about the Brewers, they did make a clear rebuild mode. They did trade Thornburg, Jeffress, and Will Smith, who were their big three relievers last year, and they got a ton of prospects. So that's good for them.
Okay.
They are moving. They got the prospects they gave in and are rebuilding. They might even be worse than they were last year. And then the Reds, not much to say on them. They lost Brandon Phillips.
Which was the only thing going there.
If you want something to watch with the Reds, you can look Billy Hamilton speed. They have two young kids, Jose Peraza and Dilson Herrera up the middle, which are big prospect names. And Raciel Iglesias could be their closer this year. He's one of my favorite pitchers in the league. I just watched some pitchers, and he is one of my favorites. I think he could come on strong as a closer and be a good trade piece for them. And, Joey Votto's contract is so big that I don't think
you can't move him.
That he's going to get moved.
You can't move him.
You got to feel bad for him, though, because he is a staple. And then at the top of the division, we have two teams, one that is great and another that is certainly worth wild card consideration. So we can actually, we'll just go bottom up and start with the Cardinals here. We have a little over 10 minutes here. So the Cardinals last year were 86-76. I believe they did miss the playoffs because the Giants and the Mets were the two wild card teams. They did make two huge additions with Dexter Fowler and Brett Cecil. Paid those guys a lot of money, and they only lost Brandon Moss and Matt Holliday. So they didn't have a ton of huge losses. Holliday's a little older. Brandon Moss, same situation for him. So my outlook for them is that they're going to be competing for a wild card spot, and you'll see them right up there with the Mets and the Giants competing for that wild card spot, just like last year.
Yeah.
I don't think they got a ton stronger because, like I said, they added those two guys, but those were the only two guys they added.
I think they got weaker, especially because they just lost Martinez. Who is a guy that can almost throw 100 miles an hour.
They also lost Jaime Garcia too. I meant to say.
Oh yeah, we just announced his signing last week with another team.
Traded him down to, I believe they traded him down to the Braves. He's with the Braves.
Yeah, because we were talking about Julio Teheran and Jaime Garcia and the Braves.
Well, they
starting,
have Dickey and Cologne too.
Yeah,
so
and that's what we were talking about. Yeah,
some older guys down there. One thing that I did want to know with the Cardinals, slugger Matt Adams, if you're aware of him, he was a big dude. He lost 30 pounds this offseason, which, most of America wishes that they could do something like that.
Losing just 30 pounds, yeah.
I think
or
that,
just not getting fat in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's going to be good for them. He's not listed as their starting first baseman this year, but he will be a nice bat to have off the bench. I think his swing is going to be quicker. I think he's going to be quicker defensively and quicker on the base pass. So that 30 pounds could translate to their biggest gain this whole offseason. Other than that, I'm thinking wild card spot for sure for them. They're, like I said, they're going to be competing. You think the Dodgers are going to win the West?
I think
the
Dodgers
Nationals will win the East most likely after these signings.
And so when you're looking
Cubs.
at NL wild card
teams.
spots,
You're thinking Giants, Cards, Mets.
I'm thinking Giants, Cards, Mets. Well, who else would there be coming out of the NL West? Certainly not the Mariners.
Yeah. Well, that's AL.
No. Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry. But look at anyone in the NL West.
Not too much strong over there. I mean, the Rockies have kind of been a joke for many years.
I guess, yeah. I know Nolan Arenado's playing really good, successful baseball over there. But when they lost Troy Tulowitzki, that team just kind of – there's not a real starting rotation. I don't even know if they have an ace.
Right. I would have to hop in and look. But, yeah, so, the Cardinals will be one of those three teams competing for that wild card spot for sure. And it was the same thing last year. Those three teams were the three competitors last year. And then on top, we have the Cubs, and we can delve into the Cubs for a little bit here. We've got 8 more minutes, so we don't have to go the whole 8 if we don't want. But we do have, this is the big team in the NL Central. The Cubs last year were 103-58. I believe they were the only team over 100 wins. They added a ton. They lost a ton. Neither additions or subtractions set them apart in any sort of way. Their additions kind of made up for the subtractions.
They did lose a lot.
They lost a lot, but they did
from
add
the
a ton
championship
also.
team already.
Right. So they added Brett Anderson, who should probably slot into their rotation, I believe.
Like their 4 or 5 guy.
Yeah, he's probably going to be a late guy. If not, he'll be a long reliever. And then relief pitcher Koji Uehara, who's been a stud for a little bit. Pitcher Brian Duensing. Outfielder John Jay they added, which is a nice outfield piece. And then relief pitcher Wade Davis, which I think is their best signing, just because they did lose Aroldis Chapman on top of a bunch of other guys. I think Wade Davis is one of the top 3 closers in the league, and I don't think that they will be losing any games because of losing Aroldis, because they did bring in Wade. Some guys that they lost were Chapman, obviously, Dexter Fowler, who was a big loss. He was a big part of that team. Pitcher Travis Wood, Jason Hamill, and then Joe Smith and Trevor Cahill, who were both relievers for them last year. So they did have a lot of losses, but they made some nice additions. As far as their outlook goes, and the two of us are on the same page here.
Yeah, they're a 100-win team.
Right, yeah, I'm saying a 100-win team. The division, like we've said many times, is a 1-1-3 division. It's going to be clear winner, clear wild card competitor, and 3 trash teams.
My thing is losing Jason Hamill and Travis Wood. The reason I think that they are a 100-win team is because it's strictly the division that they play in. If they were to be in a tougher division, do I think they have any more or less of a chance? No. But Jason Hamill and Travis Wood did provide a lot to that team. And Dexter Fowler, I don't know how much you're missing Dexter Fowler. I know he was a pretty solid leadoff guy. So, I mean, those are 3 guys that I look at Dexter Fowler, Travis Wood, and Jason Hamill, guys that I thought were very influential in the Cubs winning the World Series. Maybe I'm wrong.
Absolutely. No, I would agree with you.
And Aroldis Chapman, what he did at the end there to seal it up is nothing that Wade Davis couldn't do, except throw 100 miles an hour very consistently.
Yeah, I mean, Aroldis throws the hardest in the league. That he's solidified himself as the hardest thrower for many years.
I like John Jay as a replacement for Fowler, so that's where I'm not totally I'm not worried for the Chicago Cubs' sake.
Well, they also do have this young kid, Alberto Almora. He is projected to be their starting center fielder. So John Jay is kind of going to be a late inning defensive replacement.
So is this kind of like a Chris Bryant call up, like someone who can really?
This is another young kid.
22 years old. 22 years old.
Supposed to be a stud. He only had 112 at bats last year. Had batted .277, 3 homers and 14 RBIs. But he is slated right now as their starting center fielder. So I'm thinking John Jay is going to be kind of used as like a Juan Lagares for the Mets. Late innings, 7th, 8th, 9th.
All over the field.
Bring him in for defense.
All over the
and
outfield.
just send him in, left field, center, right field. Hayward's defense isn't there, and we know Kyle Schwarber's defense is horrible. He's a big dude out in left field. So he's not quite as
surprised
brisk on his
Schwarber's
feet.
not like a first baseman.
Well, he could be, but where are you going to put him, You got Anthony Rizzo at first, and then obviously they're second and shortstop.
You almost
is
want him on
studs.
the field just because of his bat.
Right. Oh, yeah, you have to.
But Hayward, he's a complete liability defensively. He was not worth $200 million.
He's a liability defensively, and he did not have the best offensive season last year either.
To be honest, I'm looking at guys that are more expendable than others. And I think next season, if Hayward doesn't do what maybe he should be doing, I think that we could see him being released and them spending money on someone else. Strictly because I think the Cubs could potentially become the team like the Patriots, where coming to Chicago and coming under Joe Madden is worth.
Right. Well, it's an interesting time for the MLB because it's always very competitive, but it's really, really looking like the Cubs and the Red Sox are going to be those 2 teams, and
that are just always there.
you got the Indians too, who look set to make some nice runs in these few years. But it does look like the Cubs and the Red Sox are going to be those 2 top teams for many, many years to come. Both very young, both very cheap. A lot of these guys are on their rookie contracts, which rookie minimum is $507,000. And obviously with arbitration, you're going to see a lot of these guys getting more and more millions, but still nothing like they would earn on the free agent market. So, between their pitching, which they have a deep rotation, which you wanted to talk about quickly. John Lester was named their opening day starter.
Yeah, I just have that there. I didn't know if I thought I don't know if it should have been or should not have been, but I thought it was going to be Jake Arrieta, just because of what he's done for the team, and he's been there sort of longer. Kyle Hendricks announced to the starting rotation as well.
Yeah, well, Hendricks last year he was. Now I forget exactly who won Cy Young. I want to say.
Exactly.
That Kershaw did still win, but Kyle Hendricks last year, 2.13 ERA in 31 starts. 30 starts, 31 games played.
Yeah.
That's 190 innings, 2.13. You can't argue that. And Kershaw, if he did win, I'm not 100% sure, won off the name. But Hendricks, he was the best pitcher in the NL last year. And not even he is starting over Lester on opening day.
Yeah, well, like I said, with what Arrieta did the last 2 seasons, having that 20-game winning streak or something like that where he didn't face a loss over the span of 2 seasons, I think I would have just started him. But John Lester could be more credited for the championship win than Arrieta, so I get it. It also depends on the lineup. I don't know who they're facing opening day. If they're a bunch of left-handers, you want Lester in there. Mm-hmm. If you remember the Phillies, their 1 through 4 was all left-handers for a while.
Right. Well, let's pull up their schedule quick. They're playing the Cardinals on for the Cardinals home opener on April 2nd.
I don't know if
Sunday.
they have a slew of left-handers or right-handers, but
so in that first series, in the end, all these guys are, barring any health issues, are going to get 31 starts, 32 starts in a year.
Yeah.
Is it really going to matter who starts opening day? You might have,
maybe not. With a Cubs team, who cares?
Yeah,
it could
exactly.
be something like that. Who cares who starts?
Another thing to think about, and this doesn't always happen, but I know some teams do it. Their home opener is 7 games into the season, so are they maybe lining it up so Arrieta gets the home opener or Hendricks gets the home opener and.
Hendricks certainly deserves it.
Yeah, they're both their big hyped guys. So it'll be the division will not be an interesting one. We did name 2 interesting ones previously. This one,
AL East is
so
definitely going to be interesting to watch, especially with that AL wild card.
Yeah, well, especially
with
those
Baltimore
3 teams with Baltimore.
And then the NL East
is going to
be
Yankees.
It's going to be cool to see the battle between the Nationals and the Mets, who I think are the premier teams there.
Not to mention a lot of young kids in the NL East coming up too. Between the Phillies, the Mets still have kids coming up, and
they got good
the
farm
Braves.
systems. The NL East has a good farm system going for it.
Right.
So you're just going to see wholesome talent, like a guy like Michael Conforto. Mm-hmm. A guy just coming up through the ranks.
Yeah, if he can bounce back this year, he'll be a stud too. So yeah, it looks to both of us here at YDST. We are on the same page here on this division.
I don't think anyone really isn't.
Yeah, if you got the Cardinals winning division, then you need a swift slap because it's going to be the Cubs all the way.
All over again.
And that about wraps it up for us here.
Yeah, we'll be back in 6 days and 22 hours. Thank you for joining us on Facebook Live. Remember, this is Young and Dominant Sports Talk alongside Tyler Young. I am Dominic Barone, coming to you live from Facebook Live right here on Broad and Girard in the 3rd most important city in the country, but the most important in our hearts, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We will see you, like I said, in 6 days, 22 hours. And I'm going to update I'll have on the link here, the YouTube channel. I'm going to put last week's and this week's on tonight.
Awesome. And check out the SoundCloud too. I'll be uploading that tonight.
Young and Dominant Sports, SoundCloud.com/YDST for Young and Dominant Sports Talk.
If you don't want to, find your position in the YouTube video, I'll break it up nice and easy for you on the SoundCloud. So.
No, I have to break it up for YouTube.
Oh yeah, you do.
Hour and 13 minutes is too long.
Yeah.
So yeah, it will be bite size on the YouTube too. So all right, see ya.